Kamsi was born into a family that knew struggle like the back of their hand. Her mother, Mama Kamsi, woke up at 4 every morning to fry akara by the roadside. The hot oil scarred her arms, but she never complained. She only prayed that one day her children would rise above poverty. Her father had left when she was 5, promising to send money, but his shadow never returned. From then, her mother carried both father and mother on her head. They lived in a one-room house in a crowded compound. When rain fell, the roof leaked. When sun shone, the zinc burned like fire. At night, Kamsi's younger brother Ebuka often sat with a lantern, polishing shoes for men in the neighborhood so he could add to their mother's earnings. He was just a boy, yet he spoke like an old man. "Sister, one day you will make it, just remember us." Kamsi also had Kioma, her childhood friend. Kioma's family was not better off, but that girl carried loyalty in her heart. Whenever Kamsi lacked provisions, Kioma would share hers. When school fees almost chased Kamsi out of secondary school, Kioma's father contributed part of his meager earnings from driving keek. Neighbors also rallied round. They saw Kamsi as the child who would change everything. They believed her intelligence and beauty were ladders that could lift all of them. On the morning she left for university, Mama Kamsi sold akara with a wide smile, even though she had borrowed money to buy the beans. She told her daughter, "Don't forget home. Remember where you are coming from." Ebuka carried her box to the bus stop with pride, though his shirt was torn at the shoulder. Kioma packed her last sachet of milk into Kamsi's bag and said, "You'll need this more than me." The whole street escorted her like a princess. They waved as the bus pulled away, their eyes shining with hope. But inside that bus, Kamsi's heart was plotting. She told herself she would never let anyone in school know she came from such a poor background. She would rebrand. She would polish her voice, polish her life, polish everything until nobody could guess the truth. That was the moment she buried her old self. When Kamsi reached the university gate, her eyes widened. The campus looked like another world. There were tall buildings, expensive cars, and girls who dressed as if they lived inside Instagram. She felt small for a moment, then quickly reminded herself that she was starting a new life. Nobody here knew the leaking roof. Nobody here knew her mother's akara stand. Nobody here knew Ebuka's torn shirt. She was free to create a new story. At the hostel, her new roommate Adiz welcomed her warmly. Adiz was from Enugu. She spoke with a thick accent and wore plain slippers. That night she offered Kamsi gari and groundnut. Kamsi turned up her nose. She laughed in her heart and told herself she could never stoop that low again. Instead, she brought out the indomie her mother bought and cooked it with style, even though it was just 2 small packs. Her phone kept buzzing. Kioma was calling to check on her. Mama Kamsi had also sent a text. "My daughter, hope you reached well, remember to pray." Kamsi ignored both. She was busy scrolling through Instagram, studying poses and captions. She practiced her smile in the mirror, tilting her head like the influencers she admired. The next morning in class she saw a group of flashy girls. They called themselves the Shine Circle. They carried expensive handbags and laughed as if they owned the campus. Their leader, Oni, spotted Kamsi. She scanned her from head to toe, then nodded. "You get style. Come sit with us," she said. Kamsi's heart leaped. This was the beginning of the life she wanted. That evening, Kioma sent a long message, telling her how Ebuka cried when he remembered his sister had gone. Kamsi read it but did not reply. She told herself she would answer later. She didn't. Instead, she spent the night ironing her dress for the Shine Circle welcome party. Contribution fee, 5,000 naira. It was more than she could afford, but she told herself she would find a way. As she lay on her bed, the loan app reminder flashed again, repayment due in 4 days. Her chest tightened. She turned the phone face down and whispered, "God beg, not now." Then she set another alarm, Shine Circle party, do not dull. Far away, Mama Kamsi knelt by her bed and prayed for her daughter. Ebuka pressed his school shoes under his pillow. Kioma waited for a reply that never came. The Shine Circle party was Kamsi's first big test. She had only one decent dress, a tight red gown her mother bought second-hand in the market after bargaining for almost 1 hour. Kamsi had once sworn she would never wear it, but tonight she ironed it like gold. She borrowed high heels from a hostel mate and promised to return them before cock crow. She even begged Adiz for powder to cover the pimple on her forehead. The contribution for the party was 5,000 naira. Kamsi only had 3,000 left from her mother's sacrifice money. That 3,000 was meant for food, but she transferred it without blinking. She told Oni the balance would come when her dad's driver arrived from Lagos with her allowance. There was no driver, no allowance, but Kamsi spoke with confidence, and confidence is a currency. Nobody questioned her. When she entered the party hall, her head rose higher. The music was loud, the lights were bright, and the Shine Circle girls moved like queens of the campus. Oni pulled Kamsi close and shouted over the music, "You get vibe, you'll fit well." Kamsi's heart beat fast. She laughed in that fake foreign accent she had been practicing in the mirror, stretching every vowel as if she was born in London. She took pictures non-stop. She leaned on Oni's car. She wrote captions like "soft life or nothing." She tagged people she barely knew. Within minutes her likes climbed. She felt on top of the world. But while she danced, her wig began to shift. Sweat loosened the glue and the hair slid slightly to one side. Some boys pointed and laughed. Adiz, who was watching quietly from a corner, rushed to her, pinned the wig back and whispered, "Hold it tight before you disgrace yourself." Kamsi hissed and brushed her off, then quickly posed for another photo as if nothing happened. That same night her phone buzzed. It was the loan app. "Repayment due in 3 days. Failure will reach your next of kin." Kamsi froze. She had used Kioma's number as guarantor without telling her. The thought of Kioma's cheap Nokia ringing with threats made her chest heavy, but she swallowed it down. She turned off her phone and told herself she would think about it later. Back home that same night, Kioma and Ebuka sat with Mama Kamsi, eating bread and akara. They talked about how Kamsi must be enjoying university food. Mama Kamsi smiled, though her back ached from standing by the frying pan all day. She whispered, "One day Kamsi will remember us." But in the hostel, Kamsi was already planning how to attend the next Shine Circle outing. She told herself she was no longer that girl from the one-room house. She was a queen now. It didn't take long for Kamsi to realize that the Shine Circle was not just an ordinary group of campus babes. They were like a cult, but without blood. They had rules, they had levels, they had a silent competition that kept everyone on their toes. Oni, the leader, explained it to her like a teacher. Image first. Nobody respects you if you don't look the part. After image comes connection. After connection comes money. If you can't keep up, you'll fall off. Kamsi listened and nodded. She told herself she was ready. But she didn't know the Shine Circle had some girls who were no longer playing in the campus league. These ones had already arrived. Zara came to school once in a while, always in her G-Wagon. V never repeated clothes, and rumor said she had a sponsor in Abuja. Queen P had an apartment in town with a plasma TV bigger than the hostel wall. When they entered campus, people cleared road. Kamsi's heart beat fast whenever she saw them. She wanted to stand where they stood. One Saturday, Oni dragged her along to a brunch at Platinum Place. The food there cost what her mother would make in 3 days of frying akara, but Kamsi smiled like it was normal. She ordered shawarma she didn't like just to look the part. She watched the big girls talk. They didn't laugh like normal people. They laughed with their eyes half closed, slow and calculated. They spoke about trips to Dubai as if it was the next street. They carried themselves like queens. Kamsi promised herself she would join their level soon. Meanwhile, back in the hostel, Adiz was running a different hustle. She started renting out her neat blouses and jeans for small money. She washed and ironed them well, and soon half the hostel was wearing her clothes to lectures. They called her Auntie Wardrobe. She also reminded everyone about quizzes and helped with notes. She asked Kamsi to join their study group, but Kamsi brushed her off. She was busy practicing how to pose in photos. At home, life was still heavy. Ebuka's school announced a science trip. He needed 5,000 naira. Mama Kamsi removed her last savings from under the pillow and handed it to him. "Don't worry," she said. "Your sister will soon send money. University has opened her future." That night, Kioma received another call from the loan app threatening shame. She sold her power bank to pay part of the money and sent Kamsi a message, "Please at least pick my call." But Kamsi was already staring at a new invitation from Oni, a private house party in town, Big A's birthday, only selected girls, transport covered, dress code, speak money. The same night she had a quiz the next morning. Adiz reminded her gently. Kamsi waved it off. She typed back to Oni, "I'm in." The house party was Kamsi's real test. The Shine Circle girls moved in convoy, 6 of them packed into 2 sleek cars. Oni sat in front, giving instructions like a general. "No cheap drinks, no cheap talk. If you don't know what to say, just smile. If anybody asks you who you are, say you're an influencer. Nobody needs your family history." Kamsi nodded and pressed her small purse close to her chest. Inside was only transport back to campus, but she told herself nobody would find out. Her red gown clung to her, her borrowed heels pinched her toes, and her fake accent was ready to roll. When they reached Big A's mansion, Kamsi almost lost her breath. The compound was filled with cars she had only seen on TV. Girls in glittering gowns walked in as if they owned the world. Men with fat stomachs and gold chains sat on couches, ordering bottles of champagne like they were buying pure water. Oni introduced Kamsi around. "This is my babe, fresh blood, very soft." Kamsi smiled, tossing her wig like she had been in the game for years. Some men whistled. One of them asked her what she studied. She almost said mass communication, but quickly caught herself. "Business management," she lied, dragging the words. The man nodded, uninterested. He cared more about how her gown fit than what she studied. As the night went on, Kamsi's phone buzzed. It was Kioma again. She ignored it. Another message came from the loan app, threatening to publish her photo online if she didn't pay. She shoved the phone into her purse and forced herself to laugh at a joke she didn't hear. Back on campus, Adiz was in the library with two classmates, helping them cram formulas for the Monday quiz. She thought about Kamsi and shook her head. "She'll regret missing this," she muttered. Meanwhile at home, Ebuka returned from his science trip bubbling with excitement. He told his mother everything he had seen: big labs, chemicals, even a microscope. He said he wanted to become a scientist. Mama Kamsi smiled through her tired eyes. She said, "Your sister will help you. She will make it big, then she will lift you." Back at the party, Kamsi was getting tipsy. She had posed for pictures with Oni, Zara and V, captioned "Premium Nights Only" and posted them immediately. Her likes tripled. A rich-looking man with a scar on his cheek whispered something in her ear. She laughed nervously. Oni dragged her aside and said, "Relax, this is how doors open. Shine, babe, shine." Kamsi smiled, but inside fear pricked her chest. She thought of her mother's text, Kioma's missed calls, Ebuka's torn shirt. Then she shook it off. She told herself there was no going back. She had entered the fire and she would dance in the flames. By Monday morning, the whole campus was buzzing with talk about Big A's party. Pictures had spread on Instagram and WhatsApp. Kamsi appeared in many of them, always leaning on cars she didn't own or holding drinks she couldn't afford. Some students hailed her as the newest campus babe, while others whispered that she had joined the wrong crowd too fast. She entered class late that morning, swinging her borrowed sunglasses. The lecturer had already started a quiz. Adiz quickly slid a spare answer sheet towards her. Kamsi picked it, wrote anything her hand could remember, and submitted in 10 minutes. As she walked out, she told herself quizzes didn't matter when bigger doors were opening, but her chest still tightened because she knew she had written rubbish. Later that afternoon, the Shine Circle praised her. Oni clapped her shoulder and said, "You passed your first test. Big A likes you, expect more invites." The girls laughed and ordered shawarma. Kamsi forced her laugh too, but her phone was vibrating in her bag. It was another reminder from the loan app, final warning. Next of kin will be contacted. She ignored it. That same evening, Kioma's cheap Nokia rang. A strange voice shouted that her number had been used for a loan, and she should prepare for shame if payment didn't come. Kioma's stomach turned. She didn't even have enough for her jam coaching, but she sacrificed her little savings to pay part of the debt. She sent Kamsi a message. "I helped you again. Please don't forget us." Kamsi read it, sighed, then posted another selfie with Oni captioned, "Circle before anything else." Meanwhile, Adiz's quiet hustle was growing. Girls lined up to rent her clothes before outings. She washed, ironed, and delivered on time. People mocked her for being old school, but lecturers began to notice her. In class, she always had answers ready. At night, her corner was full of students coming for notes and explanations. She lived small, but her reputation was rising. Far away at home, Ebuka returned from his science trip smiling. He told Mama Kamsi how he had seen real microscopes and how he wanted to become a scientist. Mama hugged him and prayed aloud, "My children will break poverty. My son will be a scientist. My daughter will be a graduate." She had no idea her daughter had not opened a textbook since she left home. That night in the hostel, Adiz told Kamsi gently, "You're missing too many classes, you'll regret it." Kamsi flipped her wig in the mirror and replied, "Books don't buy bents, connects do." Adiz shook her head and muttered, "Connects can also destroy." Kamsi only smiled and whispered to herself, "Destruction looks better in designer." The luxury hotel outing came on a Friday night. The Shine Circle had been hyping it all week. Oni said it wasn't like Big A's party. This one was premium. Only the established big girls and a few selected newcomers would attend. Kamsi's name was on the list. That alone made her feel like she had entered another level. The girls prepared all day. Zara arrived in her G-Wagon handing out expensive wigs to Oni and V. V had ordered matching dresses from Lagos. Queen P came with a bag of perfumes. Kamsi stood among them, pretending it was normal though her heart was racing. She borrowed heels again from a hostel mate and begged Adiz for earrings. Adiz sighed but gave her a simple pair, warning, "Don't lose these ones like the last time." By evening they were all set. They entered town in a convoy of cars, loud music spilling from the speakers. At the hotel gate, bouncers checked their names before allowing them in. Inside, the sight almost knocked Kamsi down. Marble floors, chandeliers, endless bottles of champagne, and men who looked like money itself. Some were politicians, some were business tycoons, some were faces she had only seen on TV. Oni leaned close and whispered, "This is where the real game starts. Watch, learn, and don't dull." Kamsi nodded quickly. She took pictures in every corner of the hall. She laughed too loudly at jokes. She dropped her fake accent here and there, twisting her tongue as if she had never spoken Igbo in her life. When a man asked about her background, she said her father owned a company in Lagos. Another asked what she studied. She said international business, dragging the words like a foreigner. Nobody challenged her, but inside she felt her lies stacking like blocks waiting to fall. Back at the hostel, Adiz sat in the library helping a group of students revise. They joked about Kamsi, calling her Madam Instagram. Adiz defended her gently, saying, maybe she just wants to belong. But in her heart she worried. At home, Mama Kamsi was calculating how to pay Ebuka's exam fees. She told neighbors that her daughter would soon send money. "University life is expensive," she said, "but when she settles, she will remember us." Neighbors nodded, even though they knew university was swallowing children faster than it was saving them. Back at the hotel, Kamsi watched as the big girls moved from table to table. Zara whispered something to a man, and a few minutes later she had car keys in her hand. V laughed at another's joke, and an envelope appeared under her bag. Queen P clinked glasses with someone important, her eyes sharp as a hawk. Kamsi felt dizzy watching them. She wondered if this was the price of belonging. Then one of the men with a fat stomach and gold wristwatch pointed at her. "That new girl, bring her here." Kamsi's legs shook. Oni pushed her forward and whispered, "Smile, babe, this is your chance." By now, Kamsi had tasted the sweet side of Shine Circle life, but she did not know the circle was a trap that grew smaller the deeper you entered. On campus, her name was already rolling on people's tongues. Some said she was upcoming big babe. Others said she was already doing runs. Boys in her class formed a WhatsApp group where they shared screenshots of her Instagram posts, zooming in on her borrowed wigs and writing captions like, "Levels with holes." It became campus comedy. Kamsi saw it once, blocked half the group, and posted a new picture with the caption, "Dust cannot touch gold." In the hostel, drama was boiling. Two girls fought because one borrowed a wig from Adiz's wardrobe business and returned it smelling of suya smoke. The whole corridor shouted until midnight. Adiz stood her ground, saying she would not refund a single naira. She even added new rules to her business. If you damage it, you buy it. People laughed, but they respected her more. Meanwhile, Kioma was breaking inside. She had missed 3 jam coaching classes already because she used her transport money to pay Kamsi's debt. Her father asked why she was staying home, and she lied that she was reading privately. Deep down, she wanted to scream. She typed long messages to Kamsi but deleted them. She settled for short ones like, "Don't forget home," which Kamsi always ignored. At home, Ebuka's classmates began to tease him. They had seen Kamsi's pictures online. "See your sister, big girl with bents, why you still wear rubber sandals?" they mocked. Ebuka tried to smile, but when he got home he told his mother he didn't want to go back to school. Mama Kamsi held him and said, "Don't mind them, your sister will remember us soon." But her eyes were heavy. The Akara business was slow, and her back ached from long hours of bending over the fire. Back on campus, the Shine Circle world was widening. The big girls were not just flashing cars, they were moving in coded ways. Zara disappeared for 2 weeks and returned with a new iPhone and a gold wristwatch. V was posting pictures from Abuja, each one more glamorous than the last. Queen P's bodyguard had started dropping her off at lectures like she was a minister's daughter. Kamsi watched them and told herself she was on the right path. She said, "Small time I go reach that level." But small cracks were showing. A lecturer called her name in class and asked her to explain a topic. Kamsi stood up, smiled, and opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The whole class laughed. Even the Shine Circle girls giggled behind their hands. Kamsi sat down quickly and posted on Instagram 10 minutes later, "School is scam. Focus on the bag." That night, Adiz shook her head while folding her clothes. She said, "Kamsi, you are building a castle on sand." Kamsi adjusted her wig and snapped, "Sand sef fit look like marble if you decorate it well." She laughed at her own joke, but when she lay on her bed, the loan app reminder flashed again. Your guarantor will face consequences. She locked her phone and turned to the wall. For the first time, sleep did not come easy. By mid-semester, Kamsi's name had entered the gossip blogs. A blurry picture of her leaning on Zara's G-Wagon appeared online with the headline, "Campus Babe Claims Bents as Hers, True or False?" Comments flew. Some people defended her. Others laughed, writing things like, "From Gary to G-Wagon in one semester." Kamsi saw it and panicked, but Oni told her, "Ignore. Controversy is still clout. Ride it." So she posted another picture with the caption, "If he pain you, hug Transformer." On campus, the whispers grew louder. Boys in the hostel mocked her, calling her Madam Boroposa. One day during lectures, someone shouted from the back, "Kamsi, beg tell us the exchange rate of fake accent." The whole class burst into laughter. Even some Shine Circle girls covered their mouths. Kamsi smiled tightly and pretended not to hear, but inside her pride bled. Meanwhile, Adi's star was quietly rising. She had just won a departmental quiz competition. Lecturers were praising her, classmates were asking for her notes, and her small wardrobe business was booming. Girls who mocked her before were now borrowing blouses from her collection. She didn't rub it in anyone's face. She just kept moving. That made people respect her more. At home, things were harder. Mama Kamsi had fallen sick from exhaustion but kept it secret. She still fried akara at dawn, coughing into her wrapper. When Ebuka begged her to rest, she said, "If I rest, who will pay your fees?" Neighbors noticed her losing weight, but she refused to complain. She only told herself that when Kamsi finally remembered them, everything would be fine. Kioma, on the other hand, was running out of strength. Another call came from the loan app, and this time they threatened to visit her father's shop. She cried all night. In the morning, she sold her only nice pair of sandals to raise money. She texted Kamsi again, "This thing is killing me. Please answer me." Kamsi read it, deleted it, and posted another photo with Shine Circle. Real queens don't explain. Then came her first real public disgrace. During a Friday fellowship in the hostel, a pastor invited students to share testimonies. Out of nowhere, a girl raised her hand and said, "I want to thank God for saving me from fake friends who pretend to be rich while their family suffers at home." Everyone knew who she was talking about. Heads turned towards Kamsi. Her cheeks burned. She laughed loudly and clapped like it wasn't about her, but the sting followed her back to her room that night. Lying on her bunk, she whispered, "They can't bring me down, I'll prove them wrong." But for the first time, she didn't believe her own words. One Saturday afternoon, the hostel was alive with noise. Girls were cooking noodles in the corridor, music was blasting from 3 different rooms, and boys from the next block were whistling from the balcony. In the middle of the chaos, the security guard entered with 3 visitors, Mama Kamsi, Ebuka, and Kioma. They carried small nylon bags filled with foodstuff, Gary, groundnut, dried fish, and palm oil. They were smiling as if they had entered a palace. Mama Kamsi wore her best faded wrapper. Sweat rolled down her face from the long journey, but her eyes were bright. Ebuka held a bag heavier than him, telling everyone who cared to listen, "I'm here to see my sister." Kioma carried a cooler of jollof rice she cooked overnight, proud to surprise her friend. The hostel girls rushed to see what was happening. "Visitors for who?" one of them asked. The guard shouted, "They say they're looking for Kamsi, Block B, Room 12. The corridor erupted in whispers. Oni and 2 Shine Circle girls happened to be sitting nearby, scrolling on their phones. Oni raised an eyebrow at Kamsi. "Babe, your people?" she asked, half mocking, half curious. Kamsi froze. She looked down the stairs and saw her mother's sweaty face, Ebuka's rubber sandals, and Kioma's cheap dress. Her heart twisted, but her pride spoke louder. She forced a laugh and said, "I don't know them." The girls gasped. Even Adiz, who was folding clothes, looked up sharply. "But they called your name." Kamsi shrugged. "Common name, not me." She adjusted her wig and pretended to scroll on Instagram. Downstairs, Mama Kamsi looked confused. "Please, is Kamsi here? Tell her it's her mother." The guard climbed back up and repeated the words. Kamsi's heart pounded. Oni stared at her with sharp eyes. The other girls giggled. "So your mama is Akara seller. No wonder you're always forming accent." Kamsi felt her face burn. She snapped, "I said I don't know them." The guard returned downstairs, scratching his head. He told them she say she no Yuna. Mama Kamsi's smile fell. Ebuka blinked, holding the bag tighter. "But she's my sister," he whispered. Kioma's eyes filled with tears. She tried to argue, but the guard only shrugged helplessly. The 3 of them walked away slowly, their nylon bags still full, their hearts heavier than the load. Other hostel girls peeped from the balcony, whispering and laughing. By night the story had spread across campus. Kamsi denied her own mother at the gate. That night Adiz turned to her and said quietly, "You are trading diamonds for dust." Kamsi covered her ears with her pillow, but her mother's voice echoed in her head, "Tell her it's her mother." When Mama Kamsi left the hostel gate that day, she walked slowly, one foot dragging after the other. The nylon bag of foodstuff cut into her fingers, but she didn't loosen her grip. Her wrapper was damp with sweat, yet she didn't bother to fan herself. She kept whispering, "She said she doesn't know me, my own daughter." Ebuka shuffled beside her, silent for once. He had boasted in the bus that his sister was a big girl in the university. Now he hung his head. His small sandals slapped the ground with each step. At one point he asked in a shaky voice, "Mama, maybe she didn't hear us." Mama swallowed hard. She forced a smile for him and said, "Maybe, yes, maybe," but her chest was tearing apart. Kioma was the most broken of them all. She had carried the cooler of rice like treasure, happy to surprise her friend. She had defended Kamsi countless times when neighbors gossiped about her new Instagram life. Now, in front of strangers, Kamsi had looked her in the eye and denied her. It strung like a hot knife. She walked a little behind, tears running down her cheeks. When Ebuka tried to ask her something, she waved him off. She didn't trust her voice. The bus ride back was silent. Only the rattling engine spoke. Mama stared out the window, remembering the nights she had stayed up frying akara to pay school fees. She remembered when Kamsi was small, and she carried her on her back through flood water just to get her to school. She remembered how she had borrowed beans on credit to buy provisions for this very university. Now, that same child had pushed her away like a stranger. Kioma clutched her phone tightly. She wanted to send Kamsi a message filled with anger, shame, and pain, but her fingers shook and she typed nothing. In her heart she told herself, "This friendship is finished. If she can deny her mother, what am I?" When they reached home, Mama unpacked the nylon bag slowly. She placed the gari and groundnut back in their corner untouched. She opened the cooler of rice and closed it again. She had no appetite. She only lay on her mat and stared at the ceiling, whispering to herself, "God, did I raise a stranger?" Ebuka sat quietly with his books, but no word entered his head. He was replaying the scene at the hostel, hearing the guard say, "She say she know no Yuna." As for Kioma, she stayed up that night, scrolling through Kamsi's Instagram. The same girl who had denied her was posting new pictures, smiling in expensive cars, writing captions like "Blood makes you related," "Loyalty makes you family." Kioma threw her phone on the bed and cried until morning. After the day she denied her family, things began to shift for Kamsi, though she pretended nothing was wrong. Word spread quickly. Hostel girls whispered behind her back. Some laughed in her face. One even shouted across the corridor, "Madam no family, how market?" The Shine Circle girls teased her too, but theirs carried poison. Oni said with a smirk, "If you can deny your mama, then you're ready for this life. No strings, no baggage." They clapped for her, but Kamsi's laughter sounded hollow. Her academics were collapsing. She skipped classes, spent nights at parties, and dozed through the few lectures she attended. When lecturers called her name, she shrank in her seat. Quizzes came and went with zeros. She didn't even bother to pick handouts anymore. Adiz tried to help, sliding notes under her pillow, but Kamsi hardly opened them. "School is scam," she told anyone who asked. But deep down, fear had started to grow like a weed. Her debts were piling. The loan app had not stopped. Instead, they grew bolder, sending messages to random numbers in her contact list. Some of her classmates received texts saying, "Tell Kamsi to pay her debt." It became gossip material. Even Shine Circle laughed when one of the messages landed in their group chat. "Babe, nusso dem drag you for 5,000, Oni chuckled. Kamsi forced a laugh, though inside she wanted to vanish. Meanwhile, Kioma had cut her off. She stopped sending messages, stopped answering calls. She focused on her father's shop, hiding her heartbreak behind busy hands. Mama Kamsi too had grown silent. She no longer asked when Kamsi would visit. She only prayed quietly at night, her voice trembling as she begged God to bring her daughter back to sense. Ebuka suffered the most in school. His classmates kept mocking him. "Your sister day flex bents, why your uniform still get whole?" He stopped talking in class. His grades fell. He started walking home alone to avoid their laughter. Back in the hostel, Kamsi borrowed wigs, borrowed dresses, even borrowed perfume just to keep up her image. She owed 3 girls already, and each time she walked past, they reminded her loudly, "Babe, remember my bag?" Oh, her room became a place of tension. Adiz grew tired of talking. One night she said plainly, "This path will finish you." Kamsi snapped back, "Mind your books and leave me alone." But when she lay down that night, hunger twisted her stomach. She had spent all her money trying to look the part at the last Shine Circle outing. She scrolled her phone in the dark, staring at her mother's unread messages, at Kiyoma's silence, at Ebuka's smiling face in old photos. Tears burned her eyes, but pride locked her fingers. She refused to type, "I need help." So she wiped her tears, reapplied her lip gloss and posted another picture. "Hustle hard, look soft." Her followers liked it, but in her heart she knew the truth. She was drowning and the water was rising fast. The semester results came out like thunder on a clear day. Students crowded the notice board, pushing and straining to see their grades. When Kamsi finally reached the front, her eyes scanned the sheet. FFF1 Lonely D sat there like pity. Her stomach dropped. For a moment she thought maybe it was someone else with the same name. But no, it was her matric number staring back at her. The news spread fast. Hostel girls laughed, "Madam Bent's carry last." Boys shared memes of her picture with captions like, "Slay now, repeat later." Even Shine Circle girls mocked her in private. They didn't say it to her face, but she saw the screenshots in their group chat. Oni had written, "We can't carry dead weight. School 0, bag 0, what's the use?" Her debts were also catching fire. The loan app went from sending texts to calling openly during class. Once in the middle of a lecture, her phone rang on loudspeaker. "This is a final warning. Pay your loan or face public disgrace." The class erupted in laughter. The lecturer frowned and asked her to leave. She walked out, her ears burning. Kamsi ran to Shine Circle for help. She begged Oni for a loan, promising to pay back. Oni smiled coldly and said, "Babe, we invest in people who can deliver. You can't even keep up, don't dull us." Zara waved her away, busy taking selfies. V told her to hustle harder. Queen P didn't even look at her. Within days they stopped inviting her to outings. They blocked her from the inner group chat. Shine Circle had excommunicated her. Her Instagram posts began to suffer too. Without their parties, her pictures dried up, likes dropped, followers unfollowed, comments turned cruel. "Where your Bents, where your Circle?" Kamsi deleted some posts in shame, but it was too late. Her brand was collapsing. Back in the hostel, her debts became an open joke. 3 girls she owed cornered her one night, shouting in the corridor, "Return my wig, pay for my bag, you're a thief in designer." The whole block gathered, laughing as Kamsi tried to explain. Adiz watched from the doorway, her eyes heavy. Later she said quietly, "I warned you, pride cannot feed you." At home, Mama Kamsi finally heard the gossip. A neighbor's daughter in the same hostel told her what happened, how her daughter had denied her, how she was now disgraced. Mama sat in silence, the Akara fire burning too hot. She whispered, "God, my labor, is this how it ends?" Kiyoma meanwhile saw the blog post, "Campus Slay Queen dumped by her own clique." She read it twice, then put her phone aside. Her heart hurt, but she said nothing. She had cried enough. Kamsi sat alone on her bunk that night. No circle, no money, no grades, only debts, shame and silence. She stared at her phone, wondering who to call, but her mother would ask questions. Kiyoma would not answer. Adiz would only shake her head. For the first time since she entered university, Kamsi felt naked. And the night was long. While Kamsi's world was falling apart on campus, something unexpected happened at home. A small charity group visited their community, giving out grants to struggling women. When they reached Mama Kamsi's Akara stand, they listened to her story and offered her 1 million naira to expand her business. For the first time in years, Mama felt a lightness in her chest. She bought more beans, a bigger frying pan, and even rented a small kiosk by the junction. Customers started coming in droves. She smiled again, though the smile carried scars. But when neighbors asked if she had heard from Kamsi, Mama shook her head. "That girl is no longer my child," she said bitterly. "She denied me with her own mouth. I have Ebuka, I have my Akara, that is enough." Her voice trembled, but she stood by it. Kamsi, however, didn't know about this new blessing. All she knew was hunger. She could no longer borrow clothes, nobody trusted her. She owed too many girls in the hostel. Her circle had abandoned her. Her name was dust on gossip blogs. Out of desperation, she thought of Kiyoma. "Maybe Kiyoma will forgive me," she whispered to herself. She went to Kiyoma's house one Saturday, her wig slightly crooked and her slippers worn. Kiyoma opened the door and for a second the old warmth flickered, but it died quickly. She crossed her arms and said, "What do you want?" Kamsi stammered, "Kiyoma, it's me, I just wanted to talk. Things have been hard." Kiyoma shook her head. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Hard, do you know what hard is? Hard is using my jam money to pay your debts. Hard is being called by strangers and threatened because of you. Hard is carrying cooler of rice across town only to be told I don't know her. That's hard. You, she pointed at Kamsi's chest, you are betrayal dressed in makeup. I have nothing left to say to you. The words cut deeper than laughter in class. Kioma shut the door gently, not with anger but with finality. Kamsi stood outside, tears burning her eyes. She whispered, I just wanted a chance, but there was nobody to hear it. With nowhere else to turn, she thought of going home. Maybe her mother would soften. She travelled back, rehearsing apologies in her mind. But when she reached the kiosk and saw her mother frying akara happily with Ebuka beside her, her steps slowed. Mama looked stronger, her hands steady over the pan. Customers laughed with her. She was thriving without Kamsi. When Mama saw her, she stiffened, her smile dropped. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. Kamsi tried to kneel. Mama, please. Mama lifted her hand. Don't call me that. I carried you on my back through floods, I starved to pay your fees, and when I came to see you, you told the world you didn't know me. God has lifted me now. I don't need you, go back to your life. Kamsi burst into tears, reaching out, but Mama turned away. Ebuka refused to even look at her. The customers stared in awkward silence. Slowly, Kamsi rose, wiped her face, and walked away. She whispered to herself, not even home, not even Kioma, where do I belong now? The road stretched long before her, and for the first time she realized she was truly alone. Kamsi returned to campus with swollen eyes and an empty heart. She had no friends left, no family waiting, no circle to shield her. Word had already spread about how she went home and was turned away. Hostel girls whispered louder now, some even laughing to her face. Madam Slay, dennied by her own Mama, they said. She walked with her head down, her once sharp heels now worn out. Food became a problem. She had no money to eat, no one to borrow from. She drank Gary secretly at night, the same Gary she once mocked. The bitterness tasted like shame. She avoided Adiz, ashamed of all the times she ignored her advice. The debts did not stop. The loan app kept calling, this time sending threatening messages to her class WhatsApp group. This debtor Kamsi refuses to pay, shame her until she pays. Her classmates laughed, sharing screenshots. Even her lecturers were beginning to notice. One day after class, a lecturer pulled her aside and said, "Young lady, you are throwing away your future. Is this what your parents sent you here for?" Kamsi had no answer. One night things reached rock bottom. She had not eaten since morning. Her stomach growled as she lay on her bunk. She scrolled Instagram and saw Shine Circle girls still living large. Oni had just posted a picture in Dubai, Zara was flashing a new iPhone, and Queen P was lounging in a pool with champagne. Comments were full of admiration. Kamsi's tears fell freely. She whispered, "So they left me behind, I gave everything and they left me behind." In her hunger and despair she thought of desperate measures. A boy in her hostel who noticed her struggle whispered, "If you're ready to do runs small, I can link you." For a moment she was tempted. The thought of quick money pulled at her. But then in the dark she heard Adi's voice from the next bunk, reading her Bible softly. The sound pierced her heart. She buried her face in her pillow and wept until dawn. Meanwhile at home, Mama's Akara business was booming. She had employed 2 women to help her, and customers praised her food. Yet whenever people mentioned Kamsi, her face hardened. She said, "I don't want to hear that name." Still, when she prayed at night, her voice sometimes cracked as she whispered, "God, wherever she is, touch her heart." Kioma, too, was moving forward. She focused on her studies again, slowly rebuilding herself. But she carried a scar. Anytime she saw a picture of Kamsi online, she felt anger rise like fire. She would switch off her phone and force herself not to care. Back in campus, Kamsi realized she had reached the end of her rope. No circle, no food, no friends, no home to run to. Just an empty room, debts hanging over her head and shame following her footsteps. That night she whispered, "If I don't change now, I will be lost forever." It was the first time she admitted the truth. Kamsi woke up the next morning with a heavy heart. Her face was swollen from crying, her wig tangled and her room empty. She sat on her bunk and whispered, "This is not the life I wanted." For the first time she decided to face her truth. She went to class early, carrying an old jotter she had ignored for months. She sat quietly at the back, listening as the lecturer spoke. When students laughed at her, she kept her head down. She told herself she would no longer live for their opinions. After class, she went to the library. It felt strange opening books again, but she forced herself. The first page blurred with tears, but she kept reading. That week she began selling off the few things she still had. She sold 2 of her borrowed wigs to settle small debts. She apologized to some girls in the hostel. Many laughed at her, but she swallowed her pride. She even approached Adiz one night. Her voice was low, shaky. Adiz, I was wrong. I mocked you when you tried to help me. Please forgive me. Adiz looked at her for a long time, then simply said, Forgiveness is not a problem, but change, Kamsi, change. It wasn't easy. She faced gossip every day. Boys still mocked her fake accent. Girls still called her Madam Denial. The Shine Circle ignored her as if she never existed. But Kamsi kept going to the library, kept writing in her jotter, kept telling herself that even a broken path could still lead somewhere. At home, Mama Kamsi's business continued to grow. She bought Ebuka a new school uniform and paid his fees with ease, but her heart remained cold whenever anyone mentioned Kamsi. Still, at night when she prayed, her tears betrayed her words. She would whisper, God, bring her back to sense. Kioma too was healing. She focused on her studies, preparing for exams. She no longer cried over Kamsi, but she also no longer trusted her. When people asked, she simply said, We grew apart. But deep inside, she missed the friend who used to share sachets of milk and laugh with her under the mango tree. As for Kamsi, her life became quiet. No more fake pictures, no more captions, just small steps of humility. She knew rebuilding would take time. She knew forgiveness might never come easily. But she accepted the lesson. She had learned that pride can blind you, greed can bury you, and betrayal can leave you with nothing. She had also learned that pretending to belong can make you lose the people who truly belong to you. One evening, as she sat in the library, hungry but determined, she wrote a note at the top of her notebook. Better to eat Gary with love than to drink champagne with shame. And for the first time since she entered university, Kamsi smiled, not the fake smile for Instagram but a real one. This story teaches us that chasing status without substance is an empty journey. Kamsi wanted to look rich, but in the process, she denied the very people who sacrificed for her and truly loved her. Pride made her forget that it was her mother's sweat, her brother's hope, and her friend's loyalty that carried her to the university in the first place. It reminds us that real belonging does not come from fake friends or borrowed luxury, but from people who stand by us when we have nothing. It shows that betrayal may give short-term gain, but it destroys trust that may never return. And finally, it teaches that humility, honesty, and gratitude are worth more than cars, wigs, or parties. When you trade your roots for appearances, you risk losing everything, but when you honor your roots, even small beginnings can grow into greatness.